Good evening, and welcome to the virtual open event for the Undergraduate Certificate in History. Um, my name is Dr. Matt Neal, and I'm acting course director for the Undergrad Certificate in History at the Institute of Continuing Education here at the University of Cambridge, also known as ICE. Um, and I'm very pleased to say that we're joined this evening by student representatives from the Institute's various courses in the various breakout rooms. Could I, at this point, ask our history representatives to maybe come onto camera, come onto audio, and just say hello and let people know their names. And you'll be hearing a bit more from our student representatives later on as well.
Thank you, Matt. Is that audible?
That's audible.
Very, very nice to see you, Matt, and of course, others as well. My name is Swami, and I am a successful student of the history course that we will be talking about more later. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Swami. Good to see you. And thank you ever so much for being with us this evening. Can I just repeat that if attendees wish to ask questions of our panelists or of me this evening, please do feel free to do so. And we'd like to encourage you, please, to use the Q&A function on Zoom to do that. And then we'll take some questions from there. Great. I'm hoping my slides are going to move on. I think they are. Please do let me know if for any reason the slides aren't moving. So I've introduced myself already. I'm Dr. Matt Neal, and I'm the acting director of the Undergraduate Certificate in History. And I'm also co-course director on the MST in History. Zach, one of our student representatives this evening, may be joining us in due course. And you've already had a chance to see Swami and to say hello to Swami, our other student representative this evening. More from our student representatives in a little bit. So I thought it might be useful at the head of this presentation just to give you really a kind of summary, an overview of the Undergraduate Certificate in History as a course. Now, absolutely the key thing to start by saying is that this course is open to anybody who is interested in studying history. There are no formal enthusiasm as historians. There are some really great benefits that this course brings. You receive instruction in your historical studies from experts. You meet a diverse range of people from all over the world, all of us united by our love of history, of historical study. And using that love of history, you build in your studies a variety of skills, skills of historical analysis, skills of communication, both in oral form and on the page. You engage in source analysis. There are good opportunities in this course to work on a range of primary source materials. That's original sources from the periods that you're studying. And there's a really wide range of sources that you're likely to encounter on this course, everything from traditional sort of written documents through to speeches and songs. So a really wide variety of materials to engage with, and a really wide variety of skills to build and hone. In terms of outcomes from the course, um, of course, this course is an opportunity to share and grow your passion for history. But there are some other important outcomes too. Um, it is possible with the Undergraduate Certificate of History under your belt to continue to study in history and other humanities related fields with the Institute here at Cambridge, and indeed to move on to other institutions to study history elsewhere too. Little bit of detail on some of the historical material that the course here at Cambridge covers. Um, there are 3 units that comprise the undergraduate certificate in history, and they are listed here on this slide. So, Unit 1, which is convened by Dr. Andrew Lacey, one of our experts here at Cambridge, is a unit called Reformation, Revolution and Regicide in Britain, 1603 to 1714. And this takes you through a period that covers the Stuart monarchs with King James VI and First of Scotland and England, right through to the end of the rule of Queen Anne in 1714. This was a very, very turbulent political period, so hooray, lots to study. There's the regicide of King Charles I in 1649. There's the civil wars, the Commonwealth and the Protectorate under Oliver Cromwell, the Lord Protector. The restoration of the monarchy in the church under Charles II in 1660, and the so-called Glorious Revolution of 1688. Unit 2, also convened by Dr. Andrew Lacey, is a unit called Fascism in Europe. So a rather different period and a rather different set of themes. And this unit covers the Nazis in Germany. It also covers fascism in Italy, in Spain, in Hungary, and also the rise and fall of the British Union of Fascists. Unit 3 of the undergraduate certificate in history is convened by another of our expert conveners, expert academics here at Cambridge, Dr. Ian Chambers. And Unit 3 takes as its title, The Making of America and the Native Americans. This is a unit that looks at America's First Nations peoples and their contact with Europeans in the late 15th century, to their history through to the later 20th century. Topics covered in this unit include Metacom's Rebellion, the 7 Years' War, the forced removal of First Nations peoples to reservations, their role in the American Civil War and in World War II, Native American activism, and contemporary art and literature. A little bit more information on this slide on our tutors on the course. Dr. Andrew Lacey has a doctorate for his work on King Charles I, and he has been teaching in adult education for over 25 years now. And his interests are wide as an historian, and they range from the Tudors, the English Civil War, to the 19th and the 20th centuries, and the fields of British and European history. Dr. Lacey's most recent book is The English Civil War in 100 Facts, published in 2017. Our other expert academic on the undergraduate certificate in history is Dr. Ian Chambers. And Dr. Chambers gained his PhD from the University of California. His primary area of research is early American history, and as the Unit 3 will suggest, Dr. Chambers' work places particular emphasis on Native American history, and on this subject, Dr. Chambers has published scholarly material. Ian has been honoured for his teaching, and in 2010 was awarded the Outstanding Faculty Award for Teaching, and he has twice gained the Inspirational Faculty Member Award for Excellence. So it's a real honour and pleasure to have the named experts here on the course. So we come next to the student experience, and you'll be hearing in a moment or two from Swami, our student representative this evening. But just before I hand over to Swami, I wanted to make two further points. Courses are delivered online, the Undergraduate Certificate in History, using asynchronous and synchronous teaching sessions. And teaching methods are many and varied on this course, so cater to lots of tastes. So some of our teaching is pre-recorded, some of our teaching is live and is delivered via lectures and seminars online. There is wide opportunity for student participation in discussion forums, both seminar style and online, using our online learning platform. There are great opportunities on this course for independent reading and learning activities, pre-unit preparation and post-unit preparation for the assignments that follow each unit, and formative assessment to help you with your assignments as you prepare them for submission. So, you'll be pleased to know you're not going to have to hear my voice for much longer, because I'm delighted to be able to reintroduce at this point in proceedings our wonderful student representative, Swami. Swami, would you like to come back onto camera and back onto audio and tell us a little bit about what it's like to study on the undergraduate certificate in history?
Great. Absolutely, Matt. Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. Again, I would like to answer that question in a few different dimensions so you get a slightly rounded picture of what it is to study here in the ICE. So I work in technology, primarily the technology industry, have loads of experience in the technology industry, but I got passionate about humanities along the way in my journey. I'm probably at a point in my life to do that. Perhaps you'd be pleased to know that this is my fourth course in ICE, which is going to be renamed as PACE. As you know, I've done philosophy, etc., and I wanted to do history. And what better place there is than ICE for that? I quite enjoy continuing studies in ICE for all the good reasons that Matt pointed about. I'm going to tell you my personal take on it. The first one is the tutors. I won't belabor the point about the credibility of the tutors. They are very friendly and effective. The course corrections and the nudges and everything were gentle and productive as well. For instance, Andrew has such knowledge of history and also practical things, like he would tell us as to when he crosses a particular tube station in London, he thinks about a battle in Turnham Green, for instance. And equally, Ian Chambers' lived experience in America, where he has seen and heard some of the life about the native Indians in person. So all of those lived experiences are being disseminated as knowledge it goes. So that's something that I really, really enjoyed. Obviously, access to sources. Obviously, I live outside of Cambridge. Obviously, I make it a point that I do go there to visit the library, because we do have access to the library and borrow books and enjoy reading and benefit from that. But equally, I also benefit really using the online version of the library, the I Discover tool, which is very, very, very helpful for it could be completing assignments or even like reading widely, um, referring to books and articles. So that's really a very good exercise that I quite enjoyed. Pretty much what I'm trying to say is, for a person that has that had not experienced studying history in an academic setting at the university level, that was a really good entry point for me to do all of these things. And I particularly liked the combination of things that we did in every chapter. So apart from taught modules, we also have something called as the primary resource analysis that we go through a speech, or for instance, Richard Nixon's speech, which I was like very fascinated when I was, when reading about the Native Indians and policy making. So we do have such things as reading through those speeches, making independent or formulating independent thoughts about those things. So there's plenty of opportunities and exercise like that, which I quite enjoyed as well. So there's probably a few dimensions there for you to cover, and rather than going on and on and on, I'll stop there and give it back to me, Matt, to take it further or ask any other questions if you may have.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Swami. It's really wonderful to get a student perspective on the course, and I hope you'll stay on audio, Swami, and help me to answer some of the questions that we've had, both pre-submitted and also submitted in the live Q&A chat function. So before we get down to that, I just want to check one more time to see whether um, our other student representative, Zach, is with us yet. No, not quite yet. Okay, so Swami, it's you and me. So, Swami, here's a question from one of our attendees this evening in the chat function. How many live lessons are scheduled throughout the course, and how frequently do they occur? Are the lessons held weekly, every weekend, or at another interval? And if I'm unable to attend a live session, are live sessions recorded and made available for later viewing?
Yeah, no problem. I'll try and answer that as best as I can. I have to recollect. So the sessions are weekly, obviously during term time. It kind of worked out for me very well because the sessions that I attended fell on a Saturday, so very convenient. So it's a weekly Saturday session during probably 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. or something like that, with ample breaks. Sometimes we forget that there were breaks ourselves, but we roll on. But you do get breaks, and there's no rigor in it. You can ask for breaks, and it's all definitely a very it's a balancing act for if I can put it that way. So the frequency, weekly, term time, Saturdays, yes, the recordings do happen. Every session is recorded, um, and it is available on what we call as the online tool, the ILE, the online learning environment for you to log on anytime and probably look at them later. So yes to all of those questions.
And of course, it's always lovely, isn't it, when people are together
Yeah,
in a virtual room, if I can put it like that, so that the discussion flows and the ideas spark, and it's great to be all together in that way, isn't it? So we'd always
indeed.
encourage people to be there for those live sessions. Um, and another question about live sessions, Swami, which you might want to tackle. Is there a minimum number of live sessions that students are required to attend in real time in order to successfully complete the course?
Personally, I mean, obviously there might be, one has to read through the policy document or the course guide, but I'll give you my experience. I haven't seen that being enforced as a matter of rigor, perhaps because we had many people attend most of the sessions. That could be the reason. I will put it that way, but I've never seen being tapped up for not attending or something like that. I was sick for a session. Probably, and it was like, it was pretty well accommodated, especially because we have our own lives, and life goes on indeed. So I would put it that way. It was pretty flexible, but I'm not sure about the exact specifications of the number of sessions we need to attend to get a pass or something. But that's my experience.
That's really good to hear that your experience has been one met with flexibility, where you're met with flexibility. And indeed, that's the ethos of the Institute. We're keenly aware of the fact that people's lives are complex, and we want to honour the passion that you're bringing to the course. So, there are conversations that can be had about workarounds and catch up and flexibility. So do not let that for 1 minute worry you. Okay, some other questions coming in on the chat function. Um, for a person living about 90 to 100 miles away, is there any overnight accommodation available if visiting a day or more at a time? Um, Swami, I don't know whether you have any experience of that scenario.
Yeah, I did put my hand up, Matt. Sorry to jump on you because
No,
that's
no,
a very good.
jump on away.
It's a very good question. So, absolutely yes, and that's one thing I really enjoyed. You can see my excitement because I live in London. I make it a point, an effort to be there at the lovely Medingley Hall, and they do have accommodations there. So I do stay overnight sometimes. In fact, one of the assignments, it got really busy, my work life as well. So I decided that I'm going to just stay overnight for a weekend there, borrow books from the library, the stay in Medingley Hall, and quite worked out very well with no distractions, etc. So the answer is yes, there are overnight accommodation facility in Medingley Hall, and you get a nice breakfast as well.
I can testify to that as well. Great, thanks, Swami. Here's a question about library resources, including online library resources. How effective and usable is online access to the
Yeah.
university library resources here at Cambridge? And just before you give your student perspective on this, Swami, I'd just like to emphasize that absolutely learners on this course can apply for a student card and receive access to Cambridge University Library and its online resources. And it's an amazing library. Um, but maybe I'm biased. Maybe you are too, Swami. Swami, what's been your experience of the effectiveness and the usability of the UL, as we call it affectionately, both online and perhaps in person?
Yeah, I'll start with online, obviously, because I don't have to talk about the in-person, the physical library. It's world renowned, so that'll be repeating the obvious. But the online, because I think the question was more specifically to online as well. So again, as a person who lived outside of Cambridge, it was very effective. The libraries, I mean, the online library tool is very effective in terms of navigation and how you find resources. You make a search and it gives you the list of things with the options of telling you whether that's available online or which physical library or the branch of or college library that it is available in. You get all those information for you to just get the look at the optionality of utilizing that resource. It could be a book or otherwise. Um, yeah, it's there in your fingertips, to be honest. And um, I also remember that the course readings were curated in such a way that they're all definitely, I mean, at least the main ones that are recommended are chosen in such a way that they are definitely available online. So you're not missing out anything. But obviously, you have a variety of number of other things if you want to read broader as well. So that's my experience of the online library.
That's great. And so you're guided towards your materials both by the online space and by the university library's own online resources pages.
Yeah.
And in fact the university library is um in many ways very well stocked these days with online accessible materials, which is partly a legacy of lockdown, actually. So that there are lots of things available in ebook form.
Yeah. If I may quickly add just one additional helpful point.
Please do, yeah.
Again, so your membership of the library gives you access to other non-Cambridge resources, for example, JSTOR and other archives of journals. They have this common syndicated login and access provision. So there are high chances that you have access to such resources outside of the Cambridge library ecosystems as well. So I've personally benefited from such syndicated, symbiotic resource pools that I was able to access.
Great. Swami, here's a question about class sizes. Can I ask, one of our attendees asks, if there is a limit on numbers in a given class and what the number of course members might be?
Yeah, I think again, so I don't know the provisional sizes, minimum, maximum. That's probably in the course guide, but from experience, not only this history course, the philosophy course that I have done is it's well balanced to be roughly between 7 and 15, I'd say. Like it's a quorum for very energizing discussions, but it's not like too many people where you compete for voicing opinions. So. That's actually a good balance that I've always enjoyed, more specifically in the history course that I just completed in my cohort.
Great. Yeah, and class sizes do vary. They vary a little bit year on year, and they vary um, based on course. But we do try to prioritize smaller classes at the Institute and one-to-one interactions with our academics and students where that's possible too. Um, so that's a really crucial point, I think. Here's a question again from one of our attendees writing in the chat function. Question about opportunities to do what the attendee calls specialist depth study within the course. So, this is an opportunity maybe to say a little bit about the structure of assessment in the course, the assessments that follow each of the units, and what opportunities there are to really kind of pursue in a depth-wise way a particular interest or a particular historical passion of your own within that. Swami, would you like to say a little bit about your experience of the assessment structure on the certificate?
Uh, just to get that question clear, assessment structure of how assessments are graded or written, or what was the specific?
What form they take, the assessments, I think would be a good place to start.
Yeah,
What does the
sure.
assessment look like at the end of each unit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the assessments are obviously you have small exercise as part of the course units as well. So I wouldn't term them as assessments in a sense, but there are assessments at the end of the unit as well. So where you actually write an essay of choice. Obviously, you have a number of things to choose from. There's variety, obviously, that you can choose the one that you're more comfortable with or relate to or passionate about. There's a good variety of, I think it's probably 7 or 8 options that you can choose from, generally speaking. Um, and it is a rigorous exercise. So here is where I would bring in the point of rigor, where all the friendliness and the chattiness and the collaboration, all of that gets reflected in a very rigorous format and template in the assessment as well. So, and again, the tutors were flexible enough to answer questions. And I mean, it's not like, okay, the class is over, now you go get the assessments done, and that's it. You'll get a mark. It's not like that. If you had any questions, you can always approach the tutor about, how can I approach this question? How can I structure the argument? So there's like help available for you. But the format of the assessment is assessment itself is that they do guide you. I mean, there's like resources as to how to write good essays that you can refer to as well. Again, the point I'm trying to convey is that that's where everything is rolling on to a much more serious, rigorous manner with help. How do you structure your arguments? How do you have piercing arguments? How do you critically engage with the topic and not just regurgitate what he says, she says based on references? How do you not say individually formulated opinions? It's okay to have individually formulated opinions, but grounded in a citation that you can point at the resources, etc. All of these mechanics are really woven into the narrative. So the assignments are a good way for you to practice that. And you get very constructive feedback as to where you can improve as well. I mean, sometimes you use superlative adjectives if you're passionate about something, then you get advice that says you don't have to use superlative adjectives. You need to be objective because think like a historian. You need to be objective. So stylistic aspects there. So just to summarize, content, structure, stylistic, and rigor, all of this packed into assessment writing and guidance. I'd put it that way.
That's great. Really nice to hear. And nice to hear that there are lots of opportunities to work with the academics towards your goals in the source work you're doing or the essay you're writing. Part of this question was about whether there's a longer specialist study exercise within the course. I'm slightly putting words in the mouth of the question asker here. But if by that you mean a dissertation or something like that, no, not with the undergrad certificate. There are assessments at the end of each unit. Um, one of which takes the form of a source exercise or a critical engagement with a piece of scholarship, the other of which, the longer piece, is the essay. It's not dissertation length, it's something in the region of 3,000 words. Um, but it's a good length of essay to get into some areas that you're particularly interested in or particularly passionate about within a question. Would that be fair to say, Swami?
Absolutely, yes, yeah, and they too contribute to the score, the marks, and the analysis of the primary resources and the essay at the end. So they are the two things that matter at the end. Yeah.
Great. Well, I have, I think, got to the end of the questions that have come into us on the chat function, although that chat function is still open. Those of you who are attending this evening, so please do feel free to pop a question into the chat box if one occurs to you. As we proceed, we've had some pre-submitted questions that it might be fun to turn to next. Swami, if you're happy to turn to those. And one of those pre-submitted questions is about opportunities to engage with museums, with archives, with other kinds of historical organisations, stately homes, for example. What opportunities, if any, are there on the undergrad certificate in history to engage with those sorts of institutions?
My personal experience again, so I mean, this is largely held online, so there was not a planned visit to a museum or a state or anything like that. But again, there is nothing stopping us from being more curious and interested about the possibilities, and the tutors would guide you as to what the options are. That's one way to look at it. I personally wanted to look at some archives, so I went to the British Library to look for archives there, but obviously that's not in Cambridge. But it really is how initiated you are and how far do you want to go. That would open up the possibilities. But as part of the course curriculum, we did not visit any places or anything like that because it's an undergraduate certificate to start with.
Yeah, that's right. And I suppose you can be as creative as you want to be, right? If you're doing source work and you want to do a piece of work that treats a museum as a source, if you want to maybe do a sort of material culture, material history piece, then why not make a museum your source? That's one way to be creative about that sort of thing, or to use online or other archives to find source material to work on when you're invited to do a source exercise, or to build into an essay, and what you want to argue in an essay. So, yeah, lots of opportunities to be creative and bring together your interests with the course's requirements. Yeah, you bet. Um, Question coming to the chat box from one of our attenders this evening. Are there any reading lists available for preparatory study? I think the sort of official answer here is that reading lists are made available once students are enrolled on the course. Um, Swami, what has been your own experience in this?
It's the same. You get the course guide after you enroll into the course, and the course guide is where you got the list of things. And I'm reading into the word reading list for preparatory study. If you go beyond the first unit or first week, then the whole course guide gives you the entire list of source materials and references, etc. So that serves as a good basis for preparatory study right from your second week onwards. So that's how I'd look at it in terms of the course guide and what's mentioned there.
And there is pre-reading to do, isn't there, Swami,
Yeah.
ahead of each live session gathering for each module?
Absolutely. I didn't make that enough clear enough. Absolutely right. When I say preparatory study for the subsequent weeks, they are that what you need to read or what you could read for the next sessions. And that's actually drawn out for the entire unit and beyond. So you can go as far as you want in advance to get prepared for your subsequent classes and units.
Great, super. Okay, another pre-submitted question next. Um, is there a focus on historiography and how historical narratives evolve over time? Now, just to be quite clear about that word historiography, what that means is historians writing about history. So, one of the ways in which we operate as historians is to think about how other historians have also written about the past and to engage with one another's scholarship. Swami, in your experience, what have been the
Mhm.
opportunities to focus on that kind of critical engagement with scholarship, and how historians construct their narratives and their analyses over time?
Absolutely. So the answer is yes. And the focus on historiography comes as part of the deliberation and involvement in the course itself. For example, if you actually choose any particular topic, the course material or reference material would have three or four choices to read about the topic. and then you have different historians dealing with the topic. So, assuming that you probably had your information gathered from more than one resource, we get to talk about that in the narrative. And sometimes you find overlapping opinions, maybe diverging opinions, etc. So that's an opportunity for us to think about what the historians thought about something as well. So those were the opportunities that I could recollect about such situations. And I've also been in discussions where people get to refer to things that they've heard in the past or read more widely as well. All of these things contribute to us to he has said this about this event and what about the other opinion, etc. So all of that is opportunity for contestation in a productive manner. So yeah, you have opportunities like that for sure.
It's a really important skill, isn't it?
Yeah.
To see, to develop a way of seeing um, how historians construct their arguments, and that's sort of two things, really. It's what primary sources are they using to 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 to, to construct a sense of the past, and it's how are they framing the questions that they're asking about those sources and about the past. And those are the things we also have to do, right, in our own in our own written work.
Yeah.
So to see how others do it is a really good way of sharpening up your own sense of how you want to do it. And so it's a great training in historical thinking and writing altogether, isn't it? Great. So lots of opportunities to focus on historiography. I'm always glad when I get that word out because it's a bit of a mouthful. And how historical narratives evolve over time. Um, okay, here's another question from our pre-submitted list of questions. Does the course incorporate digital history and new and cutting edge ways of researching the past? Um, we operate online as a course, but what opportunities might there be to um, study digital history as a form of historical inquiry? Um, Swami, have you had opportunities to do that?
I'm interpreting the term digital history itself. I'm not sure which one is being specifically made. Is it digital history as in history of how the digital world evolved, or studying history digitally? I probably try and start with the second interpretation. Obviously, the online resources entirely digital and digitized more and more as we speak. The way you query the books or resources, search within those books, etc., have definitely improved. So you don't have to like sift through the pages manually speaking. So you can look for keywords, etc. So those opportunities are there. I'm talking about the digital possibilities there. I personally have recently started to use. You need to be careful with this. The LLMs, the chat GPTs of the world to again use them as an interlocutor, not to paraphrase, fact check, and they could be very useful as interlocutors, um, checking in something. So you can challenge them and so on and so forth. So that's one other way I think about how we can use digital resources to corroborate or consolidate or even challenge some of the understanding that we have. These are the two things that I can think about, Matt, as to what I've done personally. But I'd say you need to be very careful about ChatGPT and LLMs as well because they hallucinate. It's a technical word. They hallucinate and they make up stuff, but
Hmm.
they're definitely a very good source for a certain level of interlocution to find out facts, combine facts, and get a narrative out, etc. So if you're smart and careful, you can use those possibilities as well. So these are the digital possibilities that I'm thinking about.
I think that's great. Thank you, Swami. And I think if you are somebody who is interested in historians and how they operate in the digital space, then Wow, I mean, there are all sorts of opportunities, I think, to develop that interest through the university's resources, even if not particularly in one of your unit essays, if it just doesn't really sort of come up. So, I mean, why not through the university's resources, read the latest issue of, whatever are the cutting edge scholarly journals in the digital history space, or why not use the online learning platform that we use on the certificate to, post an article to a forum of your peers and ask for thoughts and get a conversation going that way. I do think that the way that the resources are set up on the course gives you opportunities to pursue your interests and your passions, even if they don't always make it into the unit essay or whatever. So lots of resources to be taken full advantage of, I think would be my little bit on that. Um, Here's a question about careers. Um, what careers can students pursue after studying history? I can certainly say a little bit about that. Um, but I don't want to speak ahead of Swami if Swami has anything that you'd like to say on
Uh,
career.
I probably draw from your experience because you probably have more pithy things to say. I will definitely say about what I think about it, but it can come after you, Matt.
Great. All right. Super. Well, I mean, I think the key thing to say here is that there is no one route for somebody with a history qualification to take. But there are many, many and varied routes, career routes, further study routes, and so on are available to people with history qualifications, and they are very, very highly valued qualifications, history qualifications. For example, people are often surprised by how much law firms like historians. um, Now, in a way, it shouldn't be surprising, right? We're dealing with evidence and argument. And these are things that lawyers also deal with. Um, but that really is only one example among many that one could give. The teaching profession, academia, skills of analysis, organized and rigorous thinking that are really important in the business world. I mean, really, I think the possibilities are endless. Um, Swami, over to you.
Yeah. So thank you, thank you. Again, as I said, so I come from the technology background. I think there are many opportunities to transition into humanities, more specifically history. The more I think about history, I'll give you a meta answer and some specific thought processes as well. The meta answer is that as everybody is becoming really short attention span addicted, there is a need for that critical thinking going back in the past and the history of anything. It could be history of technologies, it could be history of philosophy, it could be history of science, it could be history of anything, as you said. So history underpins everything, history of economic thought. I think there's real value in inquiring history, especially the evolution of history of thought in any field, to come to a point where we are now to better understand why things are happening the way they are happening. So that's a meta answer I'd like to give. What that means personally, I can only talk from what I think how I can leverage my interest in history is to again take into some form of academics. Obviously, that doesn't mean that I have to become a professor or a teacher, but in ways I can influence opinions. It could be a blog writer. It could be, and nowadays, somebody who has a very good YouTube channel going that gives original critical information. amidst the noise we sometimes seem to have about certain history. So if you are really passionate about history, you can do such things independently, disseminating quality information. That's one other option. We talked about blog and so on. So museums and archives. The other day I met someone who is now transitioned in to becoming a museum guide, and they vary in different fields. Now they enjoy history, so that they actually take people on a tour, and they think that is very soul satisfying. So museum tours and tour of London, and those possibilities is what I think about in my position as what do we have as avenues to go into in terms of career and such things.
Wonderful. Thank you, Swami. I think we're going to draw to a close here. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for your time and your attention and your questions. Thanks for joining Swami and me here in the History Breakout Room. Swami, warm thanks for your wonderful contributions. It's been great to get your perspective. If a question that you've submitted before the event hasn't been answered, or if you have a question that you think of just as we leave, then please do get in touch with our enrolment team, and they will make sure that you get a response. At that address, inquiry form address on the ICE website, appears in the chat box. So do use that. Okay, that brings us to the end of our time in the breakout room. Lovely to spend some time with you all. See you back at the plenary session. You should have received a note to leave the breakout room and to head back over to the plenary session. So, very best wishes to you all, and thanks for being here.